Good afternoon and welcome. And I'd like to thank all of the partners here today and set the context for this event. This is the celebration of the Dos Rios State Parks park, which was just established and opened this last summer. And we're really excited. And thank you to everyone who's joining us on Zoom today. We have a great audience mix, and some are present and others are joining us virtually, and that includes legislators, the governors and the First Partners Office, local, state, and federal resource agencies, conservation NGOs, tribal leaders, funders, supporters, and community members, and we welcome all of you. We're really excited about tonight's premiere of the Dos Rios documentary starring Ethan Peck. And this audience will be the first to see this documentary, and it already has been entered into the Wild and Scenic Film Festival, which is a really exciting place where a number of environmental films are shown. This summer, Dos Rios became California's newest state park property in more than a decade. And Dos Rios is actually California's leading model of a private-public partnership, and we're really thrilled about this advancement and opportunity. Today, we are joined by special guests, and there will be a panel discussion moderated by actor Ethan Peck, and we will also have the unveiling of the Dos Rios documentary. And the Q&A will be open to everyone. John?
Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is John Kane. I'm the Senior Conservation Director at River Partners. And I am here instead of Julie Rentner because Julie's feeling under the weather, so we hope she heals quickly. Julie has seldom missed a day of work. And I'll do my best to fill in for Julie. Dos Rios really got started with a dream that a lot of people had. Our founder, John Carlin, Julie, our friends at the Tuolumne River Trust. And I think it's fair to say that we can celebrate a dream achieved at Dos Rios. It is when you combine Dos Rios, which is a 1,600-acre property at the confluence of the Tuolumne and San Joaquin River, with the Hidden Valley Ranch that River Partners acquired a couple years later, it amounts to 2,100 acres. And if you wanted to take a hike around it, it would require the full day. It's 8 miles of river frontage on the San Joaquin and Tuolumne River. And it's been a great pleasure over the last 5 years to be able to give people field trips out there, take people out there. And it's a great opportunity for us to say, at River Partners, we're in the business of not just restoring rivers, but restoring hope. The thing that's so great about the Dos Rios project is it's really a model project for a multi-benefit flood management project. And in fact, it is on the cover of the 2022 update of the Central Valley Flood Protection Plan. In addition to improving flood protection, it also provides water conservation benefits, groundwater recharge benefits, and habitat for multiple fish and wildlife species. None of this dream would have been possible without all of the partners that helped make it possible. And I know if Julie was here, the number one thing she would say was thank you to everyone that helped out, particularly the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the State of California Natural Resources Agency, and multiple departments, including California State Parks, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, California Department of Water Resources, and the Wildlife Conservation Board, all of whom helped fund the project. Local agencies and organizations like the Tuolumne Trust has been an essential partner all along, Stanislaus County, and Reclamation District 2092. Thank you. And then lastly, I wanted to acknowledge one of the earliest supporters of the Tuolumne Trust and River Partners on this project, the Resources Legacy Fund. Thank you for hosting us today. And to the Volgenel Foundation and the Lyons family for their support over the years on this project. It was a big dream. I think it's okay to say that we have actually accomplished much of it, but we are still dreaming really big. And if Julie was here, she'd want me to tell you about our 100,000 acre goal by 2040. And we're going to need a lot of help, a lot of partners. And it's a good thing that partners is in our name. So if you want to help, we're just waiting to hear from you. Give Julie or I a call. Thank you.
It's now my pleasure to introduce Wade Crowfoot, the Secretary of the California Natural Resources Agency.
Well, listen, thanks so much for letting me pipe in here and just express my enthusiasm for all things that is Dos Rios. This is an incredible place with an amazing story. I'm reading the trilogy of books by Douglas Brinkley right now about the leadership of Theodore Roosevelt and Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and then later presidents, including John F. Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson and actually Richard Nixon too. And one thing that I take away from this history is that every incredibly important public place, whether it's a national park or a national forest or a state park that we love, has a story and is the result of blood, sweat, and tears, the vision of so many. And Dos Rios is most definitely that place. I am really gratified that working on behalf of Governor Newsom and in partnership with Director Quintero, my good friend Armando, we were able to come in and help it at the very sort of most recent chapter, go from what was a transformational restoration project to California's first state park in a very long time. I want to recognize River Partners for its long-term vision and work for well over a decade to actually have a conversation with the remarkable landowners that shared this vision around selling it and enabling it to be restored to its natural state, to actually getting all of the funding in place to start that work and then maintain that work, for engaging our youth corps, our conservation corps to begin that restoration project, to actively fundraise not only from federal and state agencies, but from philanthropic groups as well, to have the foresight to recognize tribal leadership, given that tribes have been stewarding these lands since time immemorial. So really to take it to this place where it can be as transformational a place as it now is. One, as John mentioned, that protects downriver communities from flood risk, restores incredibly important habitat for imperiled species, and provides this public open space for communities in a part of the state that frankly don't have enough places to get outside and get on the land and actually ultimately touch the water. This is a truly remarkable story, and I'm so glad that the documentary will be able to tell its story. It will be inspirational, no doubt. I'm a lover of the Wild and Scenic Film Festival. I bring my family up to Grass Valley, Nevada City every February, and I will be proudly in one of those seats to watch the documentary and to celebrate its success. I guess I'll close by sharing a story, and it's a story you may have heard before, but it's about the riparian brush rabbit, which is an endangered species that Dos Rios was envisioned to help. And as I understand the story, this is an animal, beautiful animal in the Central Valley that was brought down to the verge of extinction and exists in another part of the region. And so the Dos Rios team was preparing the habitat and thinking about restoring its habitat to bring back and reintroduce the brush rabbit. And lo and behold, in some early surveying work, once the restoration took place, surveying work to identify the conditions which existed before bringing back the rabbit, remarkably, the staff found the rabbit already there. This critically endangered brush rabbit actually came back and found the habitat. In a way, to me, it says, if you build it, they will come. If you restore it, they will come. Nature is ready to revive. Nature is resilient. We just need to help nature, help itself, and ultimately help us. So I couldn't be a bigger fan of everything that's happening here today and all that River Partners is doing. And I cannot wait to watch this movie. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Secretary Crowfoot. That was great. And now it's my deep pleasure to introduce Austin Steve Knott. And he is a Northern Sierra Miwok tribe member, and he's also a staff member with River Partners and has played an extraordinarily critical role with the restoration of Dos Rios. He is the San Joaquin Valley field manager overseeing the restoration across the valley, including at Dos Rios. He led the first of its kind Native American use garden to be a part of this original restoration project. And along with the efforts that State Parks is doing across the state to engage with tribes, to reconnect tribes with their traditional landscapes where they can harvest traditional plant materials, this is the first park that opens its doors with a dedicated Native American garden for traditional tribal uses. It is my pleasure to introduce Steve to you now.
Majuxus, my name's Austin Stevenot. A little bit of a word for you, Mr. Crowfoot. The Miwok word for brush rabbit is chiwi. So if you ever want to use that word chiwi, it refers to that brush rabbit. Again, I'm Northern Sierra Miwok. I am the senior field manager of San Joaquin Valley for River Partners. It's a great honor to be able to sit here today. Never in a million years would I have thought that, you know, taking on a job and just doing what I love would have led me here. I invite everybody to come to Dos Rios. It's an amazing place to see something, a landscape retransformed back to what it historically could have been. Never will be what it was, but we can put it back as the best we can. To create floodplains for the safety of, you know, our communities, create space for youth to be able to come out and experience the outdoors and something other than historically when people think that they got to go visit a forest, you have to go to the Sierra Nevadas or the Coast Range. We have them here in the valley. Not a lot of them, but we're working on that. You know, we're really working hard to scale it up, as John said, 100,000 acres in the next coming years. So yeah, again, thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Steve. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Assemblyman Juan Alanis. And we have a message from Juan that will be delivered to you right now.
Well, hi, everybody. My name is Juan Alanis, and I represent the California's 22nd Assembly District. I want to thank you all for attending today's film screening. I'm sorry I can't be there, but I want to thank the River Partners and Ethan Peck for highlighting the importance of the Dos Rios Ranch. It's really cool to see a video of your district on a film. It's surreal in a sense. But I just want to let you guys know I'm a proud member of the California Problem Solvers Caucus. It's a bipartisan, bicameral coalition of members focused on real solutions for California. And we were able to retain about $40 million in funding for the San Joaquin River floodplain restoration. So I was really proud to be part of that. And this funding helped the state meet the Central Valley Flood Protection Plan goals, which was a high priority for me when I assumed office. Those of us from the Valley, where I was born and raised, are well aware of how much California relies on us for water. This funding not only supports our farmers and ranchers, it also helps people like you and me. And California just takes this project as a motivation to keep investing into restoration projects and water infrastructure. California is a really big part, obviously, of the planet, of the country, and so I think just being a part of the Valley also helps me appreciate who we are, what we are, and what we can do for everybody. I had a privilege of attending a private tour of Dos Rios. My wife and I did back in May, and we got to see it develop and be the park that it is today. We also went to the grand opening. I was very proud to be part of that, where I got to receive this Junior Dos Rios Ranger here, if you guys can see this in Zoom and TV land. And I was very proud also to receive this bandana here of Dos Rios, which is here in my office. And I'm very proud to talk about it when people come in and tell them what Dos Rios is all about. During the tour, park staff informed us of the floodplain restoration that started 12 years ago. And again, just amazing of what you guys are doing and how you guys are making things happen. I learned the importance of the flood safety and the park's groundwater recharge benefits. So I was so excited to hear that this new state park was opening right in my own backyard in District 22, a park that provides opportunities for the community members to get outside and experience the beauty that California has to offer. And again, it's literally like 30 minutes from my house, so I'm very excited for that. But I want to thank all of you who made Dos Rios a reality. I want to thank Ethan for highlighting California's gold standard of riverway revival. And I hope to see all of you soon. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Assembly Member. And before I introduce our next speaker, I'd like to tell you a quick story. And that is, I used to work at UC Merced, and there is a 16,000-acre vernal pool complex immediately adjacent to the campus. And it is one of the most ancient landscapes in Central California. One weekend a year, there's a group of scientists and researchers that spend the night or spend a weekend out there looking at the plants and animals and the archaeology in those areas. And one of those times, I invited the new dean of our School of Natural Resources, as well as her primary fundraiser, to join us so that they could experience this place, which is literally 15 minutes away from downtown Merced. The second morning that we were there, Hannah, this young fundraiser working at the campus, who was born and raised in Merced, went to UC Berkeley, and then came back home to raise money for the UC in her hometown. She was approaching us from her tent when I was talking with the dean, and it looked like she was crying. And I said, Hannah, are you okay? And she said one of the most beautiful things. She brushed her hair away from her face, and she said, I didn't know I lived here. And I think that for California State Parks, for all of you on screen and who are watching this, and all Californians, it is really a dream that more Californians realize when they travel through this state that this is where you live. And for community members who live close to these places, what an extraordinary sense of pride and belonging is available to the citizenry if we can help create those connections. So with that, it's my incredible pleasure to introduce a dear friend, Diana Avalos, and we're honored to have her here with us tonight online. And she works with the First Partners Office, and she grew up in Modesto. And I visited Dos Rios one time with Diana, and it turns out that she grew up 8 miles from Dos Rios. And she was raised by a single mom. And what we're going to see right now is Diana's reading of a love letter to Modesto, which she read and gave during the opening of the ceremony of Dos Rios State Park recently. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to Diana. It's a real joy to be with you today. And it's also my absolute joy to introduce Diana Avalos, who works for Governor Newsom's partner, Jennifer Siebel Newsom. And Diana has been an extraordinary partner with state parks, as has the first partner been an extraordinary partner, and the governor's office. Really, this in many ways wouldn't be here without the support of leadership and teams that is represented by dear friends like Diana Vente.
It is such an honor to be with you all today. I am so thankful to our state and community leaders, First Partner, Governor Armando, Paige and Danielle, and everyone that was able to gift this to our community. I would like to share a love letter I wrote to Modesto and Dos Rios. Dear Modesto, I am so proud to call you my hometown, and everybody knows it. Every time I meet anyone, I'm always like, hi, my name's Diana. I'm from Modesto. Do you know where that is? And most of you know this is a true story. Even though I have moved away, Modesto, you still feel like home. Thank you, Wilson Elementary, for teaching me English, Yosemite Boulevard for keeping me humble, and Del Monte Cannery for providing jobs for mis padres. The good, the bad, I love it all. Modesto, I want the best for you. And Dos Rios is the best of our comunidad. This restoration project is the definition of by community for community. Our community did this. And I want the world to see the hope that lives and breathes in the Central Valley. The kind of hope that lives and breathes in a little Mexican girl who didn't speak English, grew up in a broken home on the poverty line, who went on to earning a master's degree from Stanislaus State, go Warriors, to advocating for her community, to working as a senior program manager in the office of California First Partner Jennifer Seabold Newsom. Love you, boss. I am the California dream. We are the California dream. And glorious Modesto community, you did that. You did that. You helped my family do that. Let's dream together of what this park will mean for the Central Valley. Access, opportunity, exposing our young people to careers in state parks, partnerships with MJC, Stan State, K-12 field trips, no hay fin. Think about all the healing that this park will bring to our community. The type of healing that comes from just admiring the awe of Mother Nature. The type of healing that comes from just sitting in silence with loved ones. The beauty of coexisting and learning to honor this beautiful place and all of the creatures that live here with our utmost respect. Dos Rios, I'm already thankful to you for all of the beautiful memories you will help create for all Central Valley residents. You are our power and our hope, and we will care and honor you always. Dos Rios, tu calma, tu alma, me llena de consuelo. Todo lo que eres, todo lo que serás para nuestra comunidad, me llena de esperanza y amor. Modesto, this park is ours. Gracias.
It's tough to follow that, but it is my pleasure to introduce Ethan Peck, an actor who, as you will find out, became enamored of the idea of Dos Rios. So my pleasure, Ethan.
Thank you so much, Armando. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for having me. I can't believe an impulse I had a couple of years ago to cold call River Partners has led me here into this event and to what we're about to show you, which I'm so excited for. It'll actually be my first time seeing it as well. So I'm very excited. Got to see it for the first time with an audience. It's an industry secret. I obviously didn't get the wear blue memo, but that's okay. You might be wondering what I'm doing here. I'm an actor. And I came across an article in Reuters highlighting some of the positive benefits of, and effects of the work that River Partners has conducted in the Central Valley of California, where I'm a California native. Well, we will see how that is sort of redefined by my experience that I had at River Partners. And I was so touched and moved by the practicality of the work that River Partners has done in the Central Valley. I was touched by its effectiveness, by its sort of simplicity. There's so many problems in the world, desperate problems, people problems, and a lot of them have our attention and are very widely covered in the news media, and that's wonderful and great. But this was a problem that I saw was right nearby and very local, and I saw that money and effort was being spent so effectively, and the benefit, I think, is so widespread. So much produce and wonderful fruits of the land come from California and are enjoyed not just nationwide but internationally. And I thought this is important for everybody, and they don't even realize it. And so work is being done in the Central Valley of California that benefits everybody without them even knowing it. And I think that's so beautiful and so cool. And I thought, how could I get involved? How could I weasel my way into this and have a positive impact, or ride the coattails of the positive impact that they're having? And what you'll see today is, I guess, a product of that. And again, I can't believe we're all here. This is amazing. And I guess we'll start with some questions that I hope will inspire some conversation between these amazing panelists that we have here. So Secretary Crowfoot, I would love it if you would kick us off in responding to this first question I have, and we can all discuss it. Please jump in wherever you would like. So having a restored floodplain of this size in the San Joaquin Valley is unprecedented. And Dos Rios helps us see what is possible and that we can overcome a lot to deliver a brighter future. How do you hope to help make this dream real for other California communities?
Well, thanks for the question. And yeah, this is this project is a model project that can be emulated across the San Joaquin Valley and the Sacramento Valley. It was the winter before last winter that we experienced just how severe the flooding risk can be in the San Joaquin Valley. Remember, we had those 9 atmospheric rivers, we had the snowpack pile up and ultimately deliver about 3 times the annual amount of snow that we were used to receiving in the Sierra Nevada. And that's really dangerous for Central Valley communities. And the traditional approach, and it's still an approach we use in a lot of situations, is to build and armor levees, these big berms that make it hard for the river to get out of its channel. But what we know is that there is so many potential projects that reconnect the river with its historic floodplain. And that's exactly what Dos Rios does. So the exciting thing about Dos Rios is it's the start of something big. And I don't want to say it's the absolute start, because other floodplain restoration work has happened in the San Joaquin Valley. But I think, Ethan, as you pointed out, this has captured the public imagination, that when people read about this, they read about just how positive a restoration project can be on so many levels. So in California state government, we're really committed to supporting river partners and groups like River Partners to get more of these projects done. In other words, take more land, restore it for multiple benefits, open public access to help people get outside and on the land, and to design it to be that floodplain that protects downriver communities when it's flooding. So I'm really bullish on this. I'm really excited about this. Some may know that the state's flood entity in the Central Valley, called the Central Valley Flood Protection Board, has really pivoted in a major way to prioritize these floodplain restoration projects and all they can accomplish. So to me, we have important catalysts like River Partners. We have our tribal partners who are leading the way, sharing their traditional knowledge so that we do these projects right, towards restoring, closer to what we had. We have the federal government and the Army Corps of Engineers shifting the way they view these projects toward being much more open-minded about them. And then we have local leaders and our legislature, as you heard, our legislators who have invested in these projects. So to me, it's this remarkable window of opportunity, and I'm really hopeful that this film galvanizes people to see just the opportunity that exists to create many more Dos Rios across the valley.
Yeah, I'd like to add one thing, a couple things to what the secretary just said. One of them is that, we talk about water storage in California and how important it is to have that. And if you add up all of the surface storage that we've built, which is all the man-made reservoirs and dams, that totals 40,000 million acre feet of water. The capacity of the groundwater aquifers in California is 1 billion acre feet of water. And right now, it's estimated that there is enough space beneath our feet that is equivalent of about 200,000 acre feet of space for water. And one of the things that these floodplains do is it slows water down, and it allows that water to go into the very water storage that we tap into to nourish the crops and to keep our communities with a healthy water supply. And so creating this model literally creates, I believe, a model for communities up and down the great Central Valley of California, where it is a valley of big rivers. These massive rivers that come out of the crest of the Sierra Nevada and then go down to the Central Valley, and all of those rivers meet up with one of two rivers, the Sacramento River or the San Joaquin River. And the more we can do to slow down the water, to create healthy floodplains, not only will it benefit wildlife, not only will it benefit the enjoyment of us in terms of offering places where we can improve our mental health and our physical health, but it also creates water storage that can sustain this state far into the future while we face, one of the most critical challenges that the humanity in California has faced. And it's a real advancement of an example, I believe. So I'll stop there if anyone else wants to say something.
I think I'm John Kane, speaking on behalf of Julie Rentner, president of River Partners, who could not be here today. But what I wanted to emphasize is that we are ready to scale. The Dos Rios project is 2,000 acres. Our goal is to do 5,000 acres a year. And for a lot of people, you may think, well, this will take a long time. We'd like to do 100,000 acres by 2040. And I remember a field trip we got to do with the Water Foundation. The Water Foundation, thanks Elizabeth for being here. And there was a field we visited that had only been planted a few months later, and the wildlife response was that quick. Within months, you can see the benefits that these projects bring back to the valley. And what I wanted to close with is this really exciting news that last year on September 28th, we closed on a 1,600-acre property called Dos Rios Norte at the confluence of the Sacramento, Feather Rivers, and Butte Creek. And so it really couldn't happen without the taxpayers of California, without all the supporters in this room, and all the leadership in this room. So thank you very much.
Thank you all for those responses. As we know, everything in California and nature is connected, and as I hope that we will illustrate in this little video we have to show you. What other initiatives, actions being taken at the state level does riverway restoration connect to, benefit, drive? Would you like to start us off?
Sure, I'll give it a shot. I think that the opportunity at Dos Rios actually includes an opportunity to connect the stories along the Tuolumne River from Yosemite National Park, where that river begins, all the way down to Dos Rios, where the Tuolumne River meets the San Joaquin. All along that river, there are communities, the SPUC, Hetch Hetchy Dam, the headwaters of the Tuolumne, and I know that if we start working together and talking about the challenges that we are all facing in managing that river, the joint decisions that we make can actually make a difference for the health and the longevity of a healthy river from head to toe. And I believe that that's one of the things that we can start thinking about across California with Dos Rios and the Tuolumne River and the San Joaquin as a first example. The other thing that I would like to mention is that the fertility, the fecundity of the Central Valley is absolutely a result of the soils and all of the wildlife that have gathered on the valley floor through the millions of years of floods and deposition. And so you and I benefit every day with the foods that we eat as a direct result of the health of these systems. And so the more that we can work together on this and accomplish these goals, I believe that we're all going to be healthier and actually live in a healthier place.
Anybody else want to respond? Add to? We'll move on. So what part of the Dos Rios story gives you excitement and hope for the future? What excites you personally and why? And Austin, I'd love for you to address this to start.
Yeah, I gave this question some thought. And as I was sitting here and I saw Mr. Crowfoot and I have Mr. Quintero sitting next to me, it kind of brought me back to a tour that we did back in the spring with them. And we were walking out on the levee in Dos Rios and the flood, amidst the floodwaters. And we paused because there was some geese flying over and there was some ducks kind of going out of the trees. And we looked over and a beaver came out on a log and sat there while we had this conversation. And this beaver was no more than what, 20 yards from us, and just sat there and watched us have this conversation. And it's an experience like that, something that we couldn't have like cued the wildlife to do that. It just did it. But it's an experience like that that I hope will be around for generations, right? And right now, we've lost 95% of our riparian forests up and down the state of California. That's huge compared to what this state used to have. And the lack of wildlife that goes with that it's disheartening. So to be able to create spaces like this and to still have an experience like that, it's for generations to come. So that's my hope for the future, is that we can continue to scale up. Like John said, we want to do 5,000 acres a year moving forward, and we really need that help to push that, to be able to create more space like this so that your children, my children, will be able to go out and experience things like that.
Another thing is that most Californians and most visitors to California, when we travel north and south in the Central Valley, we're on either Highway 5 or Highway 99. And we're going at a pretty high rate of speed and don't pause or slow down to think about what it is that we're driving through. And places like Dos Rios State Park, and more of them in the valley, will literally allow humans to pause and recognize that the oranges, the crops, the pears, the almonds, all of that is coming out of the Central Valley, and it is massive. Every time I fly over the Central Valley, it's just amazing to me that the Central Valley disappears into the horizon, looking from the west to the east, and certainly north to the south. It is tremendously sort of beyond belief. And I will also say that I have backpacked much of the High Sierra and Sequoia and Kings Canyon national parks. And when you're wandering around the mountain peaks up there, it feels like you are in the Himalayan mountains. It is that wild. And to have these places in California that are invisible to most of us to physically experience, driving through the valley, slowing down, I think offers us all an opportunity to think about the place in which we live.
Thank you. Yes, and I think something that you really...
Good afternoon. May I jump in, Ethan?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, this is Lilia Lomelikil. I am in Grayson, which of course Dos Rios is in our backyard. So talk about being blessed. And this is such an amazing opportunity for our residents, which we have been enjoying since its opening date, because I have organized a couple of tours with small groups, taking them out to the Dos Rios, the state park. In fact, my next one is planned for Friday, September 27th. Here, I guess you guys need to see me, because you'll see the excitement in my face as well, not just down in my voice. I have a group of 30 young at heart, which are my seniors. And they are looking forward to this tour. Of course, we're not going to be, hiking or anything in any one of those trails, but we will be enjoying a super breakfast burrito, of course, surrounded by nature. As we all know, and we all already said about the benefits to not only the physical health, but the emotional health. Of course, being, with friends and family and just chilling, like they say, right? And just enjoying nature. So I have been assisting or, helping out river partners for a little bit over 6 years now. We've been participating not only in the planting of the native trees and shrubs, but also, spreading the word and just the awareness, giving out information. With the help of River Partners, we were able to make three 3-minute videos of Grayson Past, Grayson Present, and Grayson Future. And I've had 3 viewings already with, groups of 20, 25, 35. The next one is also scheduled for November 8th. And every time, everybody just walks away with comments like, oh, geez, I never knew about Grayson, like, that about Grayson, or oh, the videos were put so well together, and they've all been enjoying their time here, looking at those 3 videos. So thank you for the opportunity to share. But I think of all the communities around this area, we're the community that has been enjoying this amazing opportunity. And I thank River Partners from the bottom of my heart. And again, we got the crown jewel in our own bag. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Really beautiful to hear from you. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
I think to summarize, I think what we're all trying to do is sort of animate these figures that have been thrown around today. We've heard this many acres and this amount of water and this number of people, and it can be sort of difficult to fathom and empathize with. And I hope that this little piece we've done will help bring those further into your reality, into your mind, into your heart. So without further ado, let's check out what we made at the Dos Rios, soon to be State Park.
I think it's so important for people to wander, something that I don't think considered very often these days with all of our involvement with technology and connecting through technology. This is going to be a place for people to wander. I imagined folks coming here and unwinding and letting their thoughts unravel. And I think that's really important for people. And what brought me here is I read an article about this organization, River Partners, the work that's being done here, which is a massive restoration project in the Central Valley of California. It's been designated to be the new California State Park. It's the first one in a long time. I would argue that I play a rationalist on television, and I think what's happening here is really practical. There's an enormous threat to the floodplains and riparian ecosystems. Riparian means river adjacent. I didn't know that. And it appeared to me that this amazing thing was happening here. California has lost about 95% of its riparian forests, ecosystems. These are areas that have an amazing amount of biodiversity, which is really special and really important. A lot of agriculture is done here. A lot of produce comes from this part of the country. The need for water doesn't need to be explained. It's like a fundamental element of life. We need it. We need a clean supply of it. The work that's being done here will help ensure that that will exist for future generations.
So I'm Julie Rettner, president of River Partners, and we're here at Dos Rios Ranch, which is one of our biggest floodplain restoration projects, the biggest one in California.
That's what I hear.
It's about to become a new state park, the first state park we've had in California, a new one in 13 years. Right behind us is the San Joaquin River, and we're just right down there. And all of the land around us is the primary floodplain of that river. So the San Joaquin River is the second biggest river in California.
Oh.
And its floodplain is miles wide. And what's happened is over the years, we've kind of encroached on that floodplain and pushed up berms and levees and diverted a lot of water. So the river is constrained in a little channel, little narrow channel, one way out there, most of the year.
Well, I had heard that after flooding, the rivers sort of wander and find a new path. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. Our Central Valley rivers meander all over the bottom of the valley. And what we've done when we've channelized the rivers is we've really eliminated their ability to do that meandering. And so we've lost a ton of habitat. Almost all of the wildlife species that rely on the river are near extinction.
So it's sounding like this is a undeniably beneficial project for everybody. I mean, it just seems so win-win.
So I have little kids, right? You know, we're just talking about our little kids, and they're going to grow up here in California, and they're going to be, you know, the next generation of Californians. And when I think about what kind of a California they're going to live in, I'm super excited about these projects and floodplains because I know we're fixing a bunch of the things that went wrong. We're fixing a bunch of the things that drive drought emergencies and flood risk and flood emergencies. We're fixing those by doing this, and also creating state parks and natural areas to go walk around and enjoy nature and feel great. I mean, wow, that's a future I want to live in. And
Me too.
honestly, I just want to spend, you know, every moment of our energy now while we have it in this career, pushing as hard as we can on getting this work done so that they can enjoy it as quick as possible.
The San Joaquin River. San Joaquin River. The river is about the saddest thing you will see for a river, as far as I'm concerned. So that's why when the river partners came and started talking about, you know, well, maybe we can do something. The potential of having a area where you can go and of course the long term is the restoration effect on our water. You know, the goal is to, try to build this place up, build the natural environment there, which would be wonderful, but also to see how it makes a difference in our water quality for the future.
So did you participate?
In this planting here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I participated. Yeah, just like a lot of young people and other parents participated in. It's a good feeling to know that you plant something with your hands. You know, our community is a farm working community. And so a lot of families, a lot of people work in the fields and they produce the food that we all eat every day, but they don't really reap the benefits of that financially or the respect that they do. So when they come out here, a lot of those folks come out here and planted this, you know, they can actually see the fruits of their labor here. And no, they don't get a monetary thing, but it's going to make their community better. And it's going to let their children come out here. So it's a very, very positive thing all the way around. For me, it's starting a new era for Grayson. It's starting an era of being more environmentally conscious of the resources that we have right in our backyard, number one. And number two is we've been dumped on with a lot of pollution, a lot of tire incinerator, garbage incinerator, pesticides, all this pollution. And so this is a way of, in my humble opinion, this is kind of a form of reparations, for lack of a better way of saying it, for the community to finally get something healthy that we can enjoy on a regular basis.
Where we are now, how does this relate to the work you've been doing?
I think mental health is where it all starts. Nature plays a huge part in your life, like you're experiencing right now here, the sounds,
Yeah.
you know, the vegetation, you know, just the peacefulness.
And so you saw this space have a very positive effect.
Very much so, very much so. And I'm hoping that this will be more opportunities for not to wait until any kind of major medical, challenge, to always incorporate this into our daily lives.
I'm in this unique period of time where I've straddled the existence of the internet and it not existing. I've been making an effort to go for more walks and just empty myself of thoughts and be filled with my surroundings. There's so many issues in the world that need our attention. And it's really upsetting. You look at the news and there's a lot to be afraid of and fearful of. I think it's really important to alleviate that with exploration of nature. It's so important to be in nature.
Majuxus.
And what does that mean?
It's a Northern Sierra Miwok greeting. So, Majuxus Lehanse Hayapu Hutbayaku is my greeting in Northern Sierra Miwok. That's my given name and just basically a hello.
That's beautiful.
So as we sit here, if you look around, we're sitting under a canopy of live oaks, California Valley oaks. Acorns of these trees would have been gathered for acorn mush for the people, the Yokup people. So acorn was a large staple of the California Indian diet. Talking as a Northern Sierra Miwok, as a native person of California, you really can't tell a story without telling a beginning, right?
Yeah.
And the beginning of this place was people that lived here that had evolved with that weren't exploiting it for anything other than survival. Right?
Yeah.
People tend to think of California Indians as they were these wild people that ran around and just did whatever, but they didn't. They were very organized socially. They had massive trade routes from the coast over the Sierras out into the Great Plains. They were farmers, whether people believed it or not. Their farming practices weren't the farming practices that we have today. They cultivated things to get a outcome. That's farming.
Wow.
A lot of these intersections of rivers, these confluences they were more trade locations. This would have been considered Northern Yokup territory, but we moved up and down and people went village to village to find mates, right? People to marry, right?
Okay.
So to say that it's one, tribe or whatever you want to call it or another, kind of gets intermingled because we were always, just like going to another town and meeting someone, right? Same difference.
What's funny about that is you have these water systems combining, and it's very paralleled by the cultures that were here and are here still, combining and traveling forward.
So working for River Partners, for me to be able to create these spaces, identify these spaces, and then invite these people in, to me is priceless.
What I'm being surprised by in this moment is that I came here expecting to find a restoration project addressing just the biology. I mean, the vegetation, plants, animals. I wasn't expecting that it's also a restoration of culture and of your people.
So one of the things that I've just, because I do this on quite a bit, get to sit and talk with people about what we do. And at first, I've always gotten like this. This is just part of me. Very passionate about what I do and who I am and where I come from. but we've lost 95% of our riparian forests in the state over the last couple hundred years since colonization. Along with that, we've lost 95% of the native culture. Wow. Of the people.
Yeah.
So that, to me, correlates, right? You lose the environment, you lose the people, you lose the culture. So my hope is by putting these things back and expanding this area and allowing people to have more space to learn and practice their cultures, we can revive that and start shifting the other direction.
So, it's difficult to summarize what this experience has been like. I had an expectation, I guess, of what's happening here. And in other ways, I had no expectations of what this experience would be like. And it's far more layered and complex than I thought it would be. Of course it is. And I was very moved by what I saw here. I guess, part of what's funny is that I came here to see something other. I came here to see something that's happening in this other place, in nature. And as we've learned, as I've learned, I'm so connected to it. The water system in California is far-reaching. We learned from Austin how far back in time it reaches to the people of his culture, to the people of this land. I had this sense of pride of being Californian. Part of my reasoning for being here is that I'm a third-generation Californian. How cool and sort of unique that is, in my experience, having been born and raised in Los Angeles. And Austin is, who knows how many generations, California. What's happening here is very authentic, and it's very good. And it's benefiting of so many people, plants, animals, places, systems. I hope that after you've seen this, you have been moved to learn more about it, at the very least, to consider your place in it. It's exciting to imagine all the people that will come here and create new memories with their friends and their family, enjoy a sense of peace, and feel like they're a part of everything. Because we are.
I think I'd like to invite the viewers to just close your eyes and keep the images in mind that you've just been watching. But we're now going to have a question and answer period. But the thing that I would like to ask of each of you, if you decide to ask a question, is to raise your Zoom hand if you have a question. Make sure that your name is on the screen. And please make sure your camera is on. And we have set aside 25 minutes to answer your questions. And we have a monitor in the room who's looking at the screen to see if any of you raise your hands.
Jose, you want to ask your question?
I would be happy to. Hope you can hear me okay clearly. I wanted to take advantage of this opportunity, not quite a full Trekkie, but enough of a nerd to kind of weave in this question. So, 235 years into the future is roughly when Captain Pike and Spock will be on the Enterprise. 235 years past is like 1789, right? It's like a lot of what is about to shape California, not in good ways in terms of the landscape. So I'm asking kind of like, right, like all of the healing, as was mentioned, that will need to happen in the next 235 years. We're not quite ready for the United Federation of Planets yet, but I'd like to think pieces like this are what are gonna get there. So my question for you all is share a little bit about that future, so far into the future, and yet we know how far from the past, like how much work it takes. So I'm just curious, we're up there on the Starship Enterprise and we're looking out at los Rios. What does it look like? What could it be? What are we imagining, envisioning? And if you don't get the references, it's Star Trek nerdy jokes, but I'm hoping our esteemed guests and other panelists can still speak to it.
So from a River Partners operational standpoint, we plant successional forests, meaning what you're seeing today is not what you're going to see in 235 years from now when the Enterprise leaves. When we plant our forests, we plant with cottonwoods, with box elders, and a lot of other plants that are fast growing. They're nitrogen fixers, but we're also intermingling valley oaks and other trees in there that will one day create a bigger canopy that'll shade out a lot of those other plants. And historically there would have been a lot of oak forests along the rivers. We don't see them now because they were logged out to build and power the Bay Area as it was growing, and unfortunately we have little remnants of that left. So in my brain and my thought is 235 years from now, that'll be a beautiful oak forest with picnic tables and people enjoying those shaded areas along the river.
And I might add that in California anyway, since about 1864, when the first public lands were set aside, we started to collect traditions. And ever since 1864, we've been applying the traditions of what we thought was right. And in 2020, as you all know, California experienced extraordinary catastrophic fires across the state. And in terms of state parks, Big Basin, the oldest state park, a gorgeous, huge redwood forest in the Santa Cruz Mountains, burned to the ground. Everything, the buildings, all the trees. It was a blackened state of forest. And it was the place where I went on the very first day of my job. And in that very first day, the governor asked me in front of a group of media and others, what was my vision for the California State Park System in the middle of a forest that had burned to the ground. And, we are now challenged to develop the new traditions, to adopt the best science. And honestly, I believe that what we need to do is seek and apply the best genius from everywhere we can get it. And to me, that comes from diversity, a diversity of knowledge, a diversity of people. And it also, Jose, means that we need to be operating with an eye toward the future and how long are the impacts of our decisions going to, what's going to play out as a result of our traditions. And we all know that the way that we are operating relative to forest management now means that fire is a big part of that story. And going back to the time of hundreds of generations before in California, fire was a big part of the story. So I think we have to think about those sorts of things, and we don't know what the future is, Jose, but I think we need to try.
Well, that's a good segue. And what I would say is flood is in our future too. And Dos Rios was on the cover of the Central Valley Flood Protection Plan 2022 update. And it's the perfect model for what we need to do to adapt to the floods that we know are coming in the future. The projections by the Department of Water Resources suggest that floods, the biggest flood on record that really probably prompted the San Joaquin National Wildlife Refuge and then the Dos Rios properties to be sold for restoration was the 1997 flood. And the projections are that we can expect flood magnitudes of 2 to 5 times that size. We need to get prepared for that, and the Dos Rios model is an example of that. I love the question about, let's think really long-term about how we can restore the earth and create a better place for future generations. Fortunately, we don't have to wait 270 years. When Julie Rentner, the president of River Partners, started in 2006, she got to help plant a forest at the San Joaquin National Wildlife Refuge. And in 2023, when we had pretty modest floods, the river was, how wide, Austin? 2 miles at one point at the confluence? Up to 3 miles. And I got to go out in a boat with Austin, and he took me over to the forest that Julie planted. And we got to cruise around in that forest with trees 70 feet above our heads in a flooded forest. We can achieve an amazing amount in 250 years, but we can achieve an amazing amount in 20 years as well.
Thanks, Jose. As the resident Star Trek specialist, I really don't have too much to add to these wonderful contributions these guys have made. But I will say that I think the vision it displayed in my show sort of illustrates one that says we can't take to the stars without all the people of the earth. And I think restoration of any kind, as is illustrated in what you've just seen, is helping to restore cultures and celebrating cultures. And we need everybody if we're going to move forward. So, thanks for the question.
Thank you, and apologies I didn't introduce myself. Jose Gonzalez. I wear several hats, two of which are serve on a commission for state parks, as well as on the Board of Parks California. So I know Armando, and I'll just close by saying thank you. And I'm adding that extra element like a river, right? Live long, prosper, and wander. Thank you.
We have a question from Lilia with the United Community Foundation from Grayson. The question is, what pathways can vulnerable communities leverage to help drive more state investment in multi-benefit restoration that results in greater access and equity? How do communities like Grayson, which are critical to California's farm economy, not ensure it doesn't get left out?
My recommendation is to work with the folks in your communities to engage with the local political processes. Get on the county board of supervisors, serve on boards, even school boards, and even the nonprofits in your area. Those experiences will create bigger networks for each of you and everybody in your communities. And you can broaden, sort of like a floodplain, I guess, you can broaden the number of voices that are looking at the very issues that you raise, Lilia. And thank you so much, by the way, for your words and what you've shared with us and the work that you are doing. You are actually a model, Lilia, of what I think is going to help the restoration of community engagement in the Central Valley.
I would say that a big part of River Partners' model is hiring people who live in the Central Valley to work in the Central Valley. And Austin is one of the best examples of that for us. And it's we have employees that have worked for River Partners for 20 years. When they came, they didn't speak English very well. And now they're proud that their children went to college and they were able to support their families on high-paying jobs. Some people have complained that the cost of restoration is high, and what I like to point out is the quality of jobs that are associated with restoration and the sense of place and ownership over that place is priceless.
I would also say that the benefit of restoration is hundreds of generations into the future. and thousands of years.
We have another question, and maybe Armando, you can take this one. The question is, how can California lawmakers strengthen partnerships with innovative NGOs like River Partners to drive nature-based solutions to pressing ecosystem and community challenges? What barriers to scale can lawmakers help remove for increased statewide impact? What things are already in place and working well that lawmakers can do more of?
I think it's fair to say that all of the departments within the Natural Resources Agency and in other agencies that address statewide issues of health and environment, we all are working to engage the lawmakers in understanding not only what is happening in their districts and in their areas of responsibility, but we are also making sure that we're sharing the benefits of their decisions. And with state parks, for example, there are actually 4 divisions within state parks, which is boating and waterways, the State Historic Preservation Office, off-highway vehicles, and state parks. All of those departments have grants, which we manage, that are delivered back into communities. So the reach of all of the agencies and the departments in California are much broader than the public realizes. So I think it's sort of both ends of the phone line, where communities will do well to understand where this funding comes from. So when you see a new boat ramp on the lake or the river in your community, that's probably funded by something out of state parks, even though it's not in state parks. And by doing that and connecting with your legislators, they'll understand what the social and economic benefit is for their communities. And I also believe that agencies and departments need to continue to reach out and connect our electeds with local communities and understand what those benefits can be, including federal dollars that come to the state that get distributed to state agencies for distribution into communities. So understanding those things is critical.
Great. We have another question from Mark Borges. Mark, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Ethan, I'm curious, how do we get more folks with large platforms and influencers to talk about issues like climate? And just for everyone who doesn't know me on the call, I'm Mark Borges, board member with River Partners.
Hey, great to meet you informally, I suppose. And that's a great question, and I'm not sure I have an answer, but I would say that leading by example is one way, and that's what I hope that I'm doing. I feel very naturally connected to this effort that's being enacted by River Partners. And you know, if I'm on a job or on set or at work or at an event, it's something that I can speak about. I attend some conventions for some of the fans of my show, and I speak about it there when asked and prompted, and oftentimes of my own free will. And so I think leading by example is the best way. And speaking of, you know, entertainment media, and you know, hopefully this work that we've done will also reach some people and inspire some of my cohorts. I wanted to shout out Alan and Nick at Sanchez Media. Thank you so much for doing this. They put this video together and they did an amazing job, and I think had a great sensitivity to the content and topic at hand. And yeah, thank you for your work. It was so great to see with an audience for the first time. And thank you for your question.
We have another question, maybe Austin, this is for you. The question is, how does California's tribal community feel about River Partners' statewide efforts?
That's an interesting question because I tend not to speak for other people. You know, a lot of the tribal groups that I have been fortunate enough to come down to Dos Rios, you talk to them on the phone, they're kind of like, oh yeah, we'll come down, and they show up, and it's an eye-opening experience, as it is for everybody that attends Dos Rios. Most people come in thinking that they're just going to see a few small plants because we had just planted it. But one of my things I like to point out to people when they do come to Dos Rios is that in our lifetime, we can see the change. Because when you come there and you see cottonwood forests that are already pushing 35, 40 feet tall, and they're only 5 years old, 6 years old. It's mind-bending. People think that that amount of growth has to take 40, 50 years. But this is within our lifetime, these things can happen. And we can begin these successional forests so that, like I was speaking earlier, that we have these oak groves again in the valley. So I think it's getting people there. It's getting, whether it's a tribal group, an entity, or it's just people in general to come out and experience it and realize that these plants that we thought we had no space for are here. And it's one of those amazing things you can stand in, Armando and everybody here can attest to. You stand in the middle of Dos Rios, you're 12, 15 minutes outside of Modesto, but you feel like you're somewhere else. You're in a different place. So I think that when people experience it, they all have the same feeling.
Austin, a quick follow-up, a simple question. How is River Partners able to get so many plants in the ground so fast?
So along with our successional forests, we use modern farming practices. A lot of restoration that we think of is on a smaller scale, 3 to 5 acres, and you'll see some drip irrigation, stuff like that. We do use drip irrigation when it's appropriate. A lot of times we use the farming infrastructure that was there. So in my region, we tend to do a lot of flood irrigation because they do a lot of irrigation of corn and grasses and stuff like that. All the trees have obviously starting to move towards drip, but we utilize what's already there. So we can reduce the amount we spend on our infrastructure for the restoration by utilizing what's already been put in place. And it allows us to do hundreds of acres at a time instead of like 3 to 5 acres at a time.
Great. Next question for Ethan in particular. What do your actor friends think of your advocacy on behalf of river restoration?
Thanks for the question. My actor friends, I'm not sure I have that many. Truly, it's kind of ironic because a lot of my friends actually I've known from growing up. But I think there's something sort of it's like a rite of passage to be finding some sort of philanthropic work to do as an actor, it seems to me. And I wasn't sure that I would find that for myself, and I didn't want to do something artificially or inauthentically. And so maybe I've been told, how great you're contributing some of your time to that, and the folks at River Partners have been have expressed so much gratitude, and it's like a few days. It's not a lot of time, and I'm so happy to do it, and I feel very privileged to do it. And so I don't really think too much about what they think about, my actor friends, what they think about this sort of involvement that I have with this organization. And I just hope that I can do more, and I hope that it inspires them to be connected with something that they care about or that moves them, or to not be if they don't want to be. That's okay too, So thank you.
All right. I think this is one of our last questions. Armando, this might be for you. What can people do at the new state park, at Dos Rios, currently and into the future?
That is a great question. I mean, currently, I have to say that the day that we opened Dos Rios, there were people lined up at the entrance. And ever since, we have had visitors coming into the park. The first day we opened the park, there were entire groups of teachers that came in wanting to talk about field trip opportunities. We've already staffed the park with interpretive rangers, basically the teachers within the park. We have, as you saw in the video, there's actually shade structures where you can go and sit and picnic right by one of the bodies of water that's in the park. There are a number of trail areas that are open, but probably the most important thing is in the very, very near future, we're going to be holding public planning meetings to hear what the public wants to do there. And with those meetings, we'll be giving tours of what's there, what's possible. What is it that you want to do? Do you want to be fishing, canoeing, kayaking, bird watching, wildlife watching? In fact, right across the San Joaquin River, for example, is the San Joaquin Wildlife Refuge. And when Austin was talking about how this place feels otherworldly, when I first went there, I thought, oh my goodness, this is like the African savanna. It really is. And it's where we live. It blows my mind. And I think that I would say first, you could go there and just check it out. Dream about what you think is possible, because what we are looking for is the public's reaction to what the opportunities are that a place like Dos Rios can offer. And sign up for the mailings that we'll be sending out and the announcements, where we engage the public in what you want at your park.
Great, and we have what I think may be the last question from Sue Rees. Sue, do you want to ask your question?
Sure. Sorry, I'm not going on camera today, but I work with Julie on some projects, and I work with community members to be engaged in water management. And it's always challenging to get voices directly from the communities. And what you just said kind of segues into my question. So regarding community engagement, from each one of you, what would you say is the number one thing that can be done to get community people to come in and speak for themselves? Not be represented by an NGO, not be represented by somebody else, because we get paid to do that. But what do you recommend is the number one thing that you guys have successfully done with this project, evidently, to get community people to directly get engaged and speak to themselves, including what you got coming up and what do you want in your park?
I'll start. I would recommend that communities be encouraged to find the matriarchs and the patriarchs within community to bring their voices forward, as well as inviting the community members themselves. Every community, whether it's Hmong, Latino, Vietnamese, has those, the community leaders, and encourage them to bring their voices and your interests forward.
I'll just say, I remember when Julie reported to me that she had gone to a meeting of the Community Service District in Grayson and met some wonderful women there that were excited about the project. And that was Lilia, and that was 6 years ago. And I think Julie did something right with that meeting. But Suda, I think to your question, it's really incumbent on people that want to engage with local communities to meet them where they're at, going to their meetings on their turf, as opposed to asking for something from people that have limited time.
I will say this is like the $1 million question. This is the question we always ask. How do we get involvement? How do you get people to show up? It starts with an invitation. And that's why I'm always telling people, when you have time, if you're in the area, please stop by. People that know me, have my phone number, pick up the phone, call me. I'm more than willing to take you out there. I tell people on tours all the time, if you want to come back, call me. I'm more than willing to show you, your family, whoever you bring with you around. I think that's one of the biggest things, is getting in front of people and putting that invite out there.
I also think that it's incumbent on state parks to be welcoming to everyone who comes through the front door, and to really help the public feel that this is in fact theirs and that they belong no matter who they are.
So that would be something that would be true in an agency situation. If they were going to some other thing, make sure they feel welcome. Yep. Lots of head nodding. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Yes, so I suppose this is the termination of this amazing gathering that we've had today. The video can be shared via a link that will be emailed to you. Thank you all so much for being here, for contributing. Thank you for having me. I feel very, as I said, honored and privileged just to be connected to you and to the work that you're doing. And hope you've been inspired to continue my inquiry into River Partners, the work they're doing to river habitat restoration, water certainty for all of us. So thank you so much.
See you in the Central Valley.